Al Buch. Al served as team captain of Cal's 1959 national championship team, a driving force behind the Bears' 25-4 season, which included a 64-58 win over Cincinnati and Oscar Robertson in the NCAA semifinals and a 71-70 victory over West Virginia and Jerry West in the NCAA finals. Al was a first-team All-Pacific Coast Conference choice, averaged 9.2 points per game as a senior, scored 18 points against Cincinnati in the semifinal game. He was voted as one of the 5 members of the National Association of Basketball Coaches' Silver Anniversary All-American Team, an honor based on basketball and a lifetime of achievements. As Al Buch was inducted posthumously, some of his teammates were on hand to relate some of the many stories of how Al inspired them.
We had a drill, two-man drill with the forwards and the centers. And Daryl and I and a guy named Dick Dowdy were playing the center that day, and our coach, Pete Newell, rotated us in after 3 or 4 times, and I got finally rotated in, and they would throw the ball to you, and at that point the drill was live, and the man who threw the ball would fake and cut baseline, and you give him a bounce pass, or you'd make a move, and I had one of those days where I was in the zone, and Pete didn't rotate anymore. He kept Daryl and Dick on defense the whole time. Practice at the other end, the guards were running some offensive patterns, and they had finished, and they came to the half court and continued to watch what was going on at our end with the big guys. After practice, I was in the locker room, and I was sitting there putting on my shoes, and Al came up to me. I'm going to keep this together. This is difficult. And he came up to me, and he sat down, and he said, "I saw what you were doing." He said, "Our team needs you and what you bring to this team. Keep doing that." Now, I was a sophomore and he was a senior, and I'm going to tell you something. It's something that I've never forgotten. It was the kind of leadership that we got. Each guy got one-on-one with Al throughout the time he served as our captain.
My relationship with Al was a little different than I was the center, he was the guard, but you wanted to make sure you made good friends with the guards because Pete Newell did not let you bring the ball up the floor. But I do remember that Al Buch and Larry Friend were the first 2 men I met in basketball that shot 2-hand set shots. So I said they had to come out of New York. We never saw it on the West Coast. We saw the Hank Lucetti jump shot, and we saw the hook shots coming out of Washington with Hubriggs, but we never saw that 2-hand set shot. And when I became a pro and went back to New York, I knew where it came from. They had a lot of guys shooting 2-hand set shots back there. But that was the first time I'd ever seen a 2-hand set shot, and Al did it very well. In fact, he shot enough of them where if today the 3-point line was in effect then, he would have had 3 points many a time because he shot it pretty deep. But Al was a great captain. I remember one story, if I may share, that we were in a pregame situation, and we'd have training table before the game, and Pete Newell was giving us chalk talk, and then Rennie would get up and do some things. And at one point, Pete began to talk, and all of a sudden, Al went, "Psst, now what's going on?" And Al said something to Jerry Mann, one of our fellow players, who was looking out the window. He wasn't paying attention to what Pete was saying. And Al went, "Hey, Jerry, psst, psst." So Jerry finally snapped around, and Pete said, "Son, where were you?" And he said, "Well, Coach, I was at halftime." Pete, in his great way, said, "Well, were we ahead or behind?" That kind of broke the ice. But Al was the kind of guy that would save a teammate from total embarrassment, and it became a moment of levity rather than a problem.